Your manager sends you an Excel workbook every month. Now, at first glance, it looks perfectly organized. It has stores, unique stores down here on the left, and you have months across the top. And sales numbers, of course, are filling in the middle. So what is the problem? The problem is the spreadsheet was designed for humans to read and not for computers to analyze. Today I'm going to show you how professional data analysts recognize data that needs to be unpivoted, why we do it, and how just in a few clicks in Power Query can completely transform this report that you see here into an analysis ready data set. So let's look at the data like an analyst. And before touching Power Query, always ask yourself one question. Now, what does one row of data represent? Now here, each row represents a store, and that's good. Now let's look across the top though. You have all these months. These column headers immediately stand out. Now here's the clue. Months are not actual field names or column names. Months are values. And think about that. If someone asked you what month was this particular sale made in, would you answer the sale belongs in January? Or would you answer it the month was January? Okay, there's a slight distinction between that. So the month itself is a value, and values become or belong inside of a column. So in other words, you'll see later on that all these months will become values in a column called month. And I use now here I use this checklist every single time I receive a new data set. So let me pull that up. So here I ask these particular questions. Do these columns represent time? Or do these columns repeat the same type of measurement? Are these columns categories, or could these column names become values? If you answered to yes to one or more to the above, you probably need to unpivot your data. Okay, so now let's check out this report. Let's bring this up. Okay, now this report is fantastic for management. Okay, they can quickly compare January data against February, like you see right here. That's exactly how humans like to read information. But Power Query, pivot tables, Power BI, or even SQL don't think like humans. They think in records. One record, one transaction, and one observation. So now let's load the data into Power Query. So let's go over here. I already created this to an Excel table, as you can see here, top right, table design, and I called it monthly sales. Now if I right click anywhere in my data and get data from table arrange, it's going to load this table into Power Query. And give it a second here. And before we start unpivoting, always inspect your data and never immediately click on pivot. And let's inspect the data first. Now you could see in some areas, let's see where they are over here. You could see some values are nulls over here. Down here, there's a null value here, null value here. So let's understand first why these values are null. Maybe the store wasn't open yet for that particular month. Or maybe the data hasn't even arrived yet. And maybe the ERP system failed. So maybe sales were never even entered for that particular month or for that store. So, should we fill in the blanks? Well, the answer depends on what those blanks mean. If the blanks truly mean no sales occurred, then replacing them with 0 before unpivoting is perfectly reasonable. Now, if the blanks mean we don't know the sales yet, then leave them blank so you don't accidentally create false data. So as a data analyst, your first job is to understand the business meaning of missing values, not just replace them automatically. So because this data set is intended to represent missing monthly sales records rather than confirm 0 sales, I'm going to leave the blanks as nulls. That preserves the original meaning of the data. So now let's perform the unpivot. So let's select a certain number of columns. Let's go over here. Let's select store ID. We're going to select store name, region, and store type. So I'm going to do a shift click so it selects all of them. Now I'm going to right click on it. Oops, let's do this again. Now right click on it and we're going to select unpivot other columns. And watch what happens to the data. Okay, now all these columns that used to be the months are now individual values for each and individual store. And so since we had 12 months of data, now we're going to have 12 rows for each store ID that we have, which is basically January through December. And we're also going to have our individual sales values for each one of those months. So, what we now did, these are, like I said, these were column names. Now they've become values inside of a month column, exactly where they belong. Now let's rename these columns. So let's go to attribute, and we're going to call this month. And we're going to take the value column and we're going to call this sales. Press enter. Now this transformation completely changed the shape of our data. Before, again, we had one store with 12 sales columns, and after that, unpivoting, now we have 12 rows again in one sales column. Okay, instead of storing months across 12 columns, we now store them down one column, as you can see. Now, why does this matter? Now I'm going to load the data back into Excel. So let's go up to here, home, and close and load. Now we got this more structured table that's going to be better for pivot tables to analyze our data. So let's do one example. Let's go ahead and let's insert a pivot table on this, insert pivot table. And we're just going to keep this in the existing worksheet. Let's go over here, click OK. Okay. Now let's say that we want to get total sales by month. So what we want to do is we're going to put the month now into the rows, and now we're going to put the sales into the values. So now we got basically sales by month, and this only took seconds. Now let's say we want total sales by region. So instead of the month in here, we want region to be over here. So now we got the individual unique regions and we got the total sales by region. So what is the big takeaway? I don't unpivot data because Power Query has an unpivot button. I unpivot because I recognize a pattern. So today you learned something much more valuable than clicking a button. You learned how to think like a data analyst. Anyone can memorize where the unpivot command is. The real skill is recognizing when your data is structured as a report instead of like a database. So once you develop that instinct, you'll start seeing unpivot opportunities everywhere. Remember to like, share, and comment on this video, and also subscribe to my channel. And I want to thank you for stopping by today. You have a great day, and I'll see you on the next video.